Hi friends, I'm Olga Koelsch and welcome to my studio. Today we are going to practice more layered technique, but not for the flowers, for painting Valentine hearts. I hope you enjoy the process and will have fun. So let's start. For today's lesson I will use hot press Arches paper, 100% cotton. You can also paint the same lesson on a smaller scale on watercolor postcards when you paint on one side and the other side is ready to send to someone. I will use Alizarin Crimson by Delia and Ronnie. You can use any of your favorites. If you have a paint which you haven't used, which you bought in some shopping spree, never used before, that would be a great moment to give it a try. Let's firstly draw the initial shape of a heart. To make it easier, prepare some empty space in advance. And then you just draw a heart within this space. You can soften a little bit pencil marks with kneadable eraser. It gently removes pencil mark without damaging watercolor paper. Now let's prepare our paints. I squeeze in a small amount of paint in my palette, and then with my brush I grab a little bit of this amount, bring it to the other part of my palette and dilute it a lot with water. I recommend you to start very light, very transparent. Something like this would be nice. When we paint on hot press paper has a very slippery surface, and this type of paper needs a longer time to let water soak into the fibers. Therefore, especially if you paint in relatively large shapes like our heart, you need to glaze with the water, just with clean water, all the shape. If you decided to paint in postcards, you can skip this moment and start to paint with paints already. But for those who are painting pretty big, let's do it in this way. I give my water few seconds or a minute to soak better into the paper fibers, and then I bathe my brush in my watery mix and just start to mix my watery mix with prepared watery surface of the heart. Right now it is very light, very diluted, and this is what we need. Very delicate beginning. Try to distribute paints carefully. I move my brush according to the shape of the heart, like this. If you see that you have a lot of puddles, dab your brush onto paper towel, on tissue, and use your brush as a sponge to remove excess water. We don't need puddles. Now at this very moment you can go with the tip of the brush and correct the shape. Now I suggest you to switch to the other brush, just same type of brush, synthetic brush, but of smaller size. grab a little bit of bold mix and go around the edges with the bold mix. As we paint pretty loose and for fun, I would suggest you this time just let paints to distribute by themselves. This is a good exercise which helps you to better understand how big amount of water do you need for your type of paper, for your climate. So just enjoy the process. If you, for some reason, would like to make some corrections, just clean your brush, dry it with a paper towel, and go around the area you would like to correct. And with the tip of the brush, you can either soften the edge or remove some unnecessary bloom, and so on. And now let's dry all these layers completely. I dried my heart with a hairdryer that created some spots, but for this project it is completely fine. Now let's paint another layer. I start with the tip of the brush from this point of the heart, and I will create another heart a little bit smaller than the previous one. I have to paint pretty quick because I will need this watery consistency, because I will need these watery paints so I can create a wash within it. So right now you, so to say, create an outline of a heart within a heart. And now, because we have very watery edges, we can, with the body of the brush and with our watery mix, just create another wash using all the water that we have here. I always bathe my brush, I always come back to my palette and I try to work in different directions, so not to let any parts of my wash to get dry. Once you move towards the end, it's getting better. For this project, it is completely okay, and actually it's even more welcome to have a little bit different of textures within the wash. So let's change the brush to a smaller one and repeat the same idea with outlines. And when you do that, you can correct a little bit the shape if necessary. You can also, if you see that the outline is getting too dry, with the tip of the brush you can touch that bolder mix and distribute a little bit watery mix into the middle of the wash like this. you can play around. Maybe no need to outline all the heart around, just some spots. I'm painting today just with one color, but if you want to challenge a little bit yourself, you can try to mix different colors, and if you do so, I recommend you to stick within one color group. For example, you can try out different red violets, or we call them pinks in everyday speech, and just use different shades, and then you see what happens. I like to create these big bleeds, so I keep adding more and more of my bold mix. Make next layer a little bit different. I will draw a middle line, so to say. I will divide my heart into two halves, and let's say I will start from the left. I will draw the left part. Again, I use my super watery mix to outline the future shape of the next layer. And because it is very wet, we have really puddles of water in this outline, it would be easy to use it to create nice wash without visible dried outlines. So right now I just draw one half of the heart. I think that can create nice interesting idea like this. And for the right half, before I'm painting the right half, I would like to dry the left one. Now I would like to create another layer, and I would like to play around with the shape. Something like this. And then the other half. The other half should not be symmetrical, or of course if you like, you can try to make it symmetrical, but I would rather play around. Again, very watery outline, and then you, so to say, drag down in the middle of your wash all the water with very watery brush. And at the same time you can correct some shapes. Now I would like to add a little bit more of bold mix in the very middle of the heart. Maybe a little bit around. I like how already here it's kind of a pattern which repeats, that there is some graded blue in the bottom right of the heart. So I will just keep it like this. Now I will create again half of the heart. I will try to place my middle line right where it was before, so it will emphasize brightness on the left side, and that will create nice contrast between two halves. And this time I would like to to make the shape a little bit overlapping with the previous layers. So something like this. Actually, I have small damage on the edge, so with my new shape I will just correct it. I will include it into the new layer, and that will look, and that will be an interesting solution of some mistake. I like that very much, this half, but so we have it here pretty visible. I would like to go around with my bold mix and add more contrast into the shape. Next layer, and amount of layers, it's all up to you, but I think I can go with 1 or 2 more. Next layer I will do pretty simple, pretty expected, but again with some overlappings around. Try to keep your watery mix really watery, because there is a risk if you keep to make it a little bit darker, it would not create nice difference between layers. So your watery mix should stay that watery as you prepared it in the very beginning. So I created 1 more heart. I add a little bit of this juicy the last layer. Just I want to create very nice shape for the middle heart, something like this. First watery mix. Right here the shape is much smaller, and that creates a lot of puddles. To remove puddles, dab your brush onto paper towel and remove it. Try to always keep in mind that this middle part of the heart and the bottom tail of the heart will be on the same line. That will really create this nice idea of a book of 2 parts of the heart. So try to place these points at one line. So now it's as it is the final heart, at least for me. If you like, you can proceed with those hearts and make as many layers as your paper allows you and your fantasy and your imagination would like. So I think for me this is enough. I would like to emphasize a little bit the edges, and when necessary I'm softening the edge. Bring bold mix a little bit towards the center and correct the shape. In this case I would like to add a few more bold details in the very middle. but to bring the attention into this middle. When you paint on a smaller shape, for example for postcards, you can also decide whether you place your heart in horizontal line or in vertical line. I think I will stay with the vertical. It will be in a way easier. I have my mix, very diluted mix. So I start to paint right away without glazing this shape with water, because the shape is small and that will give us enough time to create nice wash within this shape. Paper on these postcards is cellulose paper. It dries pretty fast, but the amount of water in your brush, in your watery mix, allows you to make it relatively efficient and quick, and without making paper dry. Remove puddles in the same way as we did before. With clean brush, you use your brush as a sponge and remove puddles, and then you just let it dry. Now let's paint another heart. Actually, I would like to start with the half of the heart. Let's make it on the right side, just half of the heart with watery outline. My brush is maybe even a little bit bigger than necessary for this wash, but that also a lot of water, and that allows me to have enough time to create nice wash without stressing about drying it. Now I remove puddles with my almost dry brush. I use my brush as a sponge and remove puddles, especially in the tip of the heart, right here. And now let's dry it. Cellulose paper does not allow you to create too many layers, so I probably will stay with 3 layers, maybe 4. Let's see. Right now I will create just a heart within a heart. When I paint, especially on the top of cellulose paper, I try not to press too much on my brush, because this paper is very sensitive to mechanical pressure, and that can destroy the layers. So be very gentle. Your brush somehow it slides on the top of the water without touching the paper. We can try the same trick with the bold outlines. Add a few drops around. A little bit. Something like this. If you like to create blooms, and if you're a fan of watercolor textures, you can wash your brush and add, instead of bold mix, you can add a little bit of water, few drops of water into the almost dried wash. Now let's try this layer. I think we can easily go with one more layer, and of course it's very tempting to play around a little bit, make some overlaps,
not on the right side, because right here we have already enough of going on, and on the other side I think I will just keep it like this. It looks very pretty, and I want to make it pretty. I remove puddles. I always dab my brush onto the paper towel and remove puddles. Now with another brush, you can add outlines or watery blooms, whatever you like. For example, you can make watery blooms always from one side and create outlines, bolder outlines on the other side. There is no right or wrong solutions. This lesson is really about fun on one hand. On the other hand, it's a nice introduction to the layered technique. This paper actually allows me to add one more layer, and I will do that. I will create a little bit longer heart, so it will overlap a little bit with the previous layers, and it will end not here but more in the same shape as some of the previous layers. And again, it's all up to you. Just have fun, make a lot of experiments, try different things, and then add very, very big, bold mix in the very bottom of this heart, so it will be very catching up attention, eye catcher. Same here. Always pay a little bit more attention to the last layers. You can start your initial layers pretty rough, don't bother about them, don't overthink them, but the final layers, it's where you can really add details, some extra contrast, take care of nice shape. That's where it will be needed. I also would like to emphasize the middle like this, and now I think we have a pretty lovely Valentine card, or just best wishes card for a special one.
Thank you so much for painting with me. I hope this lesson inspired you to try layered technique for different projects, and I hope you enjoyed the process. I'm looking forward for your feedback and suggestions. Have a great day and see you next time. Bye bye.